Bonjour! Aujourd'hui, nous avons la voiture très sportive et mange pas de Big Macs. Ici, le Alpine A110, c'est très bon. Au revoir! Yes, it's the Alpine A110, a car so good it's adored by motoring journalists the world over. However, I sort of think it might just be one of those cars journalists like, but not normal people. I've never driven one, so I'm going to find out and take you along for the ride. It's a £49,000 two-seat sports car, the engine in the middle, although this one is £60,000, and one of those options is the purple paint. Sorry, Tulip Noir. Black tulip, £5,000 that paint, and the gold wheels are an optional extra as well, so it kind of looks a bit like the Cadbury's Dairy Milk bar. Obviously it's designed to look like the original Alpine A110 from back in the 1960s when everyone had sex with each other and did drugs. Like that car, it's designed to be as lightweight as possible. It's 1.1 tons, which is pretty light by modern standards, and they've done lots of things to help do that. The body is 96% aluminium, and they've done geeky things like incorporating the handbrake into the rear caliper, so it's not an extra caliper, which saves 2.5 kilograms. It's got a flat underbody to help with aerodynamics for efficiency and walking into it, and it's got a little French flag here to remind us that the French are actually really bloody good at making cars that are fun to drive. For me, the back of this isn't quite as pretty as the front. I think it's a little bit flat bummed and a bit gawky. You've got this massive central exhaust. That's actually a sports exhaust on this, which is £1,500 optional extra, and it's got 1,300 quid of rear reversing camera and parking sensors. You've got a teeny tiny boot, that's 92 litres, and you've got another 100 litre frunk, which actually isn't as useful as this space, and I'll cut a shot of that in. So it's not hugely practical. It's nowhere near as practical as something like a Porsche Cayman with its huge deep well under the frunk. You can talk about the engine. Obviously it's here. It's a 1.8 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder from Renault with 252 horsepower and 320 newton meters of torque. Good for a 0 to 62 mile an hour time of 4.5 seconds. And yes, I do have a fly on my head, and obviously it's an automatic gearbox as well. Go away. They like bald men. The A110's interior lives up to the whole lightweight ethos of the car in general. So the seats don't adjust up and down because they're on like race seat runners, and they're really beautifully comfortable Seatbelt bucket seats, which only weigh like 12 kilos each or something mad like that. Steering wheel, exactly the right shape and size, not too thick. Metal paddles, which are lovely. I know some people on the internet are selling replacement ones already, but I don't really think you need to. You've got digital dashboard, which shows everything you need, nothing you don't. You've got a little 5-inch infotainment system, which is quite basic, but it does what you need it to. And I think you can plug your phone in to mirror your smartphone through CarPlay or Android Auto. That's about it really. You've got aircon, manual aircon, set the temperature, set the fan speed, and buttons up here for things like turning stability control off, and a blank button for something this car doesn't have, which is a little bit annoying. Big red start button down here, and window switches are down here as well, like in an old Mini. Electronic handbrake, and the cruise control switch is here. Weirdly, you got to activate it here before pressing buttons on there. Leather dash, bits of carbon fibre which aren't optional, I think they're standard, including a little slot here to hold the key, which is one of those annoying Renault card things. There we go, that's the key. Just give us a normal key fob shape thing, Renault. Ugh. Anyway, you probably didn't come to listen to me waffle on about my purple interior. You just want to know how it drives, so let's go and drive it. Right, driving the Alpine A110, the first thing you notice when you get into it is that it's easy to get into. It's not like a Lotus where you have to clamber over a massive sill, through a tiny door, under a really low roof to get comfortable. You could get in and out this daily without any problems whatsoever. Second thing is how easy it is to drive. You press D with your foot on the brake, check your mirrors, which are slightly cheap looking, it has to be said. They're surrounded by matte black plastic that would look kind of out of place on a cheap Fiesta, and off you go. It's as easy as that. Now, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. The visibility, good out the front, slightly bad out the back because it's got quite a small rear window. That's it. And there's nowhere to put your phone. There's no door pockets, there's no glove box. There's a tiny little place down here, and there is a tray sort of thing under here, I guess, but it's kind of hard to get to with the bucket seat slid into my driving position. There's USBs under there as well, so you can charge stuff and do all your normal daily things. Now, you're probably wondering, is a 252 horsepower engine with 4 cylinders special enough or powerful enough for this sort of car? Yes, it feels quick. Yeah, that turbocharged torque really does help with the lightweight of the car to make this feel more than brisk. It makes it feel quite quick, and I quite like it. And you get proper raughty rally style pops and bangs on the downshift as well. There's very little turbo lag, and I thought it was going to be a forgettable engine, but it's not really. It's quite entertaining. Now, the dampers on this car, let's talk suspension for a minute, aren't adaptive or anything like that, but they get on the job really well. And that's the thing, the lightweight of this gives it so many benefits in so many areas that you do wonder why no one else makes a light car. I guess it's expensive to engineer while still meeting modern regulations, but anyway. Even on a bumpy road, you feel that lightweight, it kind of flows with it, kind of almost skimming across the surface of a pond, yet still feels connected. The steering isn't the last word in Lotus-like feedback, but it's decent enough, and it kind of weights up as you'd expect, and has no nasty surprises. I've driven this for probably 4 hours on the motorway actually, and it didn't annoy me. I had the cruise control on, it's not radar, but you know, it does the job. And I've got the optional focal stereo in here, which is apparently a lightweight speaker system, and the cones in the door speakers look like they're made out of tatami, like the Japanese mats, the bamboo type mats. But anyway, it sounds good enough, to be honest. But anyway, enough of my waffle, let's get to a country road and give it some. Actually, I'm going to do a bit of motorway talking because there's something important we need to discuss. Stick it in 7th gear on the motorway. Now, noise on the motorway is really quite good. Often small sports cars like this, you just get loads of tyre roar, but not in this. And again, the suspension works so well with the lightweight of the car that it's comfortable and you're not getting jiggled around the whole time. The main thing though is the fuel economy. Because this is such a light car with a relatively sensible engine, I got 50 mpg out of this, admittedly in like 50 limits and things like that on the motorway, but I've averaged about 40, 45 mpg on long runs in this car. It's not like a thirsty M2 competition. I guess a Cayman's not hugely thirsty even in 6-cylinder form, but this is better. So if you care about fuel economy, get one of these. Right, twisty roads, less sensible stuff. You get 3 driving modes in the A110. You get normal, you get sport by pressing the sport button on the wheel, and if you hold it, you get a track mode which slackens off the stability control a bit. I'm just going to leave it in sport, and because there's nothing behind me, you can do a quick 0 to 60. I know it's not about the speed, but anyway, this bit is. Right, there we go. Left foot on the brake, accelerate, and go. Yeah. Fast, there you go, that is 60, so loads of traction because the engine's out back, the back tyres just dig in, no drama, and off you go. It's also quite nice that the gearbox shifts smoothly, so if you change gear, even in an aggressive mode mid-corner, there's none of that shunt that you get from some cars that are trying to be dramatic. But yeah, the real story here is the handling, and I'm probably not going to be able to demonstrate it because I'm stuck behind a Subaru Forester. But when you're going around a big sweeping corner, say 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, you can adjust the angle of the car and the feel of the car minutely by lifting off or getting on the throttle. And there's that kind of mid-engine thing, which you don't feel in much other than a Lotus Exige, and even then, that doesn't roll much, whereas this has got some roll built into it. So this feels incredibly fun and alive at road legal speeds. I get it, Alpine. You have done a remarkable thing of making a slightly soft but fun car. Now, while I'm still stuck behind this Subaru, we can talk about the fact it's a very narrow car as well. So if you live in the sticks, and I know James May's got one of these, and he sometimes takes it down to his countryside home, he loves the fact that you can go around corners without worrying about what's coming the other way so much, because it's not taking up the entire road like this Subaru Forester at 2 miles an hour. You get a slight frisson of understeer on corner entry when you're going a bit too fast, but then you kind of lift off a bit and it turns and it grips. It's just very entertaining and very alive and agile. Now, all the electronics do work perfectly well, so you're never going to get really caught out in this unless you turn everything off, and then you might have a bit of a whoopsie, but it moves around enough with everything switched on to give you a bit of a smile on your face. You hear so much turbo sucking noise from the kind of back left. It reminds me of my mate's old Noble. You don't get any dump valve hiss, but you get a big as it ingests air. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the way this drives as a road car. Now, I think if you want to take one of these on track, you might start to get slightly frustrated with how it's set up for the road. You might want to stiffen it up a bit. And there is a whole cottage industry set up around this car already. People doing different suspension setups, the different gear shift paddles that I've spoken about. So if you do want one of these and you do want to tweak it and tune it, you can. Obviously there's the S version, which is stiffer out of the box and a bit faster. But if you're just driving on the road, I don't think cars get much sweeter than this, to be honest. Full stop. It's maybe not as dramatic as an M2 competition or as yowly as a 6-cylinder Porsche, but that's a lot more expensive now. If you've got 50 grand and you want a 2-seater sports car, do not overlook this, or if you do, buy an M2 comp. And the brakes are really good as well, I should have said. The brakes are really good. One thing I haven't really spoken about in the Alpine A110 is the positive reaction. You get so many waves and thumbs up in this. I was on the M25 and a man in a Porsche 911 came alongside and gave me a thumbs up. Another man in a Ferrari waved to me. Admittedly, I've mostly been getting all of this from strange men that I've never met before. But I just think it goes to show that if everyone drove Alpine A110s, the world would be a better, happier place. We would shake off the shackles of tyranny and war, and we would all just get on with our lives in happiness. Or something. Anyway, enough of me nursing various parts of my body at how good this is to drive. Back to you, Tim, for an outro. Don't be predictable. So, is the Alpine A110 just as good as every man his dog says it is? Well, unfortunately, I'm going to add my voice to theirs. It is a really great car to drive. Not only is it a great, entertaining, lightweight driver's car that feels alive, it's easy to live with thanks to that automatic gearbox. It's comfortable as well. Gets about 40 mpg, 45, even 50 on a long run. The only things are, there's no glove box or really anywhere to stick your phone when you're driving it. Not much luggage space front and rear. But other than that, it's a pretty good thing. Now let's talk about the alternatives. Obviously a 6-cylinder Cayman nowadays is available, but it's more like 70 grand after options. So this is 20 grand cheaper already. Something like a BMW M2 competition, I think, is more entertaining despite being heavier, just because it's front engine rear wheel drive, a bit easier to manage if you're drifting around like a lunatic, and I prefer the 6-cylinder BMW engine to this. So I would go for an M2 competition, but I understand why people buy these. If you worship at the altar of driving, you get up on a Sunday morning at 5 AM just to go for a drive, this has got your name written all over it, so go and get one. Possibly not in Cadbury's Dairy Milk. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you've enjoyed this. Do hit my bell and also leave me a comment calling me a bad person at speaking French.